A lot of Christians have been told directly or indirectly that if they feel anxious, then they must not be trusting God enough. And I'm just curious, what would you want that person to hear from you?
I would first want to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that has been spoken over you. I can imagine that did not help you feel less anxious or closer to that person or closer to God.
I'm joined here today by Caroline Horton, one of the amazing therapists at MyCounselor.Online. A lot of folks kind of think of anxiety as sin. We know it's not sin, but what is it?
I think it's helpful to think about it as a threat detection system. So kind of like an emotional smoke detector. With a smoke detector, obviously, it's alerting us that there's a fire. And thank goodness, so we can run away, get out of the burning building. Something underneath the surface feels dangerous to explore or to feel. Your anxiety does not disqualify you from the faith. It is not a sin. It means you're human. There is a lot of life on the other side, but there is a way out, and there is a hopeful way of living in this messy world.
The Road to Happiness podcast is made possible by MyCounselor.Online. Hey, we all need some help every now and then. And the counselors at MyCounselor.Online are thrilled to come alongside you and help you navigate all the challenges in relationship or just life, the obstacles that life throws at you that get in the way. So check them out, MyCounselor.Online. They'd be honored to serve you. All right, I'm so excited. Joined here today by Caroline Horton, one of the amazing therapists at MyCounselor.Online, to talk about your new article around what I think is a really important topic. One of the most sinister things that the enemy of our soul does is to take and distort Scripture and use Scripture to condemn and beat over the head people. And and part of what makes it so deceptive is the grain of truth kind of in the mix that happens. So you see like Jesus and his temptation, the enemy comes to him, Satan comes to him and uses Scripture to try to trip him up. And when it comes to anxiety, there can be this sense where I think the enemy really tries to beat people up around the normal angst and fear that we feel in life. So I just feel so passionate about the article that you wrote because I think a lot of folks need to hear this. So just want to tee it up as we get started. A lot of Christians have been told directly or indirectly that if they feel anxious, then they must not be trusting God enough. And I'm just curious, what would you want that person to hear from you?
Yes. Like you said, unfortunately, this is really common for people to hear. And I would first want to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that has been spoken over you, because I can imagine that did not help you feel less anxious or closer to that person or closer to God. So
Yeah.
Your anxiety does not disqualify you from the faith. It is not a sin. It means you're human.
Yes.
And it's going to do something helpful for you. So that's what I want.
Yes. Oh, it's such a good word. I feel like, and so, straight from the heart of Jesus, kind of through your lips, that he repeatedly, the Scriptures talk about not being afraid, but it's always paired with, for I am with you.
Yeah.
Okay? And in First Peter, it talks about casting our cares on him. And if you just stop there, it's when you can get kind of this shame whop upside the head, like,
Yes.
oh, I'm having anxiety or I'm having fear, and so I must not be trusting. But to finish out the verse, and you hear, it's because he cares for you. Like, it's not an indictment that you are afraid. It's not an indictment that you have angst. It's an invitation from one that wants to hold you and hold with you the scary, hard things. And it
Yeah.
feels so just dirty for the enemy to turn that in a way to try to cause us to feel like God is maybe disappointed because
Yeah.
we feel the normal things that we feel as humans.
Right? Yes. So dirty of him.
It's all right. We can push back. We don't have to take that from him.
Yeah.
We can combat it with truth. So a lot of folks kind of think of anxiety as sin. We know it's not sin, but what is it? If it's not sin, can you unpack just practically a little bit when someone feels anxious and guilty? Like what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's helpful to think about it as a threat detection system.
Mm,
So kind of like an emotional smoke detector, if you will.
yeah.
So with a smoke detector, obviously it's alerting us that there's a fire. And thank goodness, so we can run away, get out of the burning building. So this, in a way, is our body's smoke detector that's detecting emotional danger. Okay, something underneath the surface feels dangerous to explore or to feel.
Hmm.
Okay, and so from this understanding, it's a signal. Like when our stomach is growling, it means you're hungry, you need food. When our body is responding in an anxious way, it's giving us information that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah. What a useful system Jesus wired in.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's almost like he knew what he was doing, or something like it almost. And yeah, that we would need guidance, we would need information. I just think about the what would happen if we didn't have that alarm system.
Right?
Like that would be really problematic if there was dangerous and threats and that we didn't pick up on or we didn't perceive or that we didn't notice because we had no threat detection system.
Right.
Like that'd be bad.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Like
It's
it's a
such a
good.
counterintuitive thing to think of as a good thing. It is a
Mhm.
good thing, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily feel good.
Right.
Right? And so I think it can be easy to think of it as a not good thing. It's quite a paradigm shift. Kind of turn upside down and go, okay, not only is it not a sin, but it's actually a gift.
Major paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And just that paradigm shift can change so much. Just if we change our relationship with anxiety
Mm,
from a
yeah.
sin to a signal, from something to feel guilt and shame about to something to welcome. Crazy.
Yeah. Say more about that. I'm curious as as a person, as you're working with a client and they're making that shift, how does it change the way that they maybe relate to their anxiety? And what does that do for them? How does that
Hmm.
help them?
Yeah. Well, I think, previously you were asking about when people feel anxious and guilty.
Hmm.
So oftentimes the guilt and the shame exacerbates the anxiety. So it's
Yeah.
not that just, I'm feeling this thing, it's I'm feeling this anxiety and then I'm feeling so shameful and guilty about it. And then that shame and that guilt kind of fuels more anxiety. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just this kind of vicious cycle. And
Yeah.
people get stuck there.
Gosh.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so if we, can reduce some of that shame and that guilt, if we can understand that anxiety is trying to serve us, that God actually gave it to us for a good reason and is giving us helpful information, we can break that cycle and help begin to kind of look underneath the anxiety to
Mm-hmm.
maybe some of those core emotions that are really needing to be processed and felt through.
It makes so much sense. Like I think we spend so much energy and effort just trying to make it stop, like to
Yes.
distract
Yeah.
ourselves from the anxiety or beating ourselves up because we're experiencing anxiety, feeling like we're disappointing God in some way. Like to slow down and actually get curious about what it might be trying to tell us, what the message within the anxiety might be for us. Like it's just a totally different way of engaging the experience. It's like running towards instead of running away. It's almost opposite.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And for
Does
for
it
most
work?
people, I know. Yeah. Yeah, it's totally a paradigm shift, and it does. It does, you know? So often when we, are trying to, I don't know, like, I'm sure you've heard it said, like, if somebody tells you to not think about the polar bear and the tutu, like, what's gonna happen? You're gonna think about the polar
I
bear
see
in
it
the
in my head right now.
Yes, exactly. So there's something to be said about, running towards the thing, and it actually losing some of its power when we acknowledge it
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to ignore it, trying to distract it. Because when we do that, the underlying issue is still there and it's going to pop up again.
Yeah. The smoke alarm analogy is really helpful
Mm-hmm.
because if the smoke alarm is going off and I'm just like trying to stick cotton in my ears or earplugs in to like drown out the sound of the smoke alarm, not only is it not super effective, but it doesn't address the reason it's going off in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. The
What
fire's
if the
still there.
house is on fire? Yeah,
Yeah,
right. And if the house isn't on fire, there's still smoke in the air from something. Like it's
hmm
never nothing when a smoke alarm
yeah,
goes off. Even if it's
yeah,
not the house is on fire, it's still something.
yeah. Yeah, Josh, that's so good. Like it's valid. It's real. It's not dramatic or imagined. Like
Hmm.
anxiety is a very real experience. And whether
Yes.
or not the house is on fire, like you said, there's something that's that's making that threat detection system turn on.
Yeah. I'm curious, as you have met with folks and kind of unpacked the something, that you've helped them get their mind around this idea that what if your anxiety is not your enemy, but that it's a signal from a very intelligent system that God wired into the nervous system, and it's there to serve you and to help you and to draw your attention to something that needs your attention. They've kind of gotten their head around that and been able to turn with this compassionate curiosity towards their own heart. What are the kinds of things that we might find that's triggering that smoke alarm?
Yeah. So oftentimes when we kind of look under the surface of the anxiety, we find some core emotions that are feeling maybe dangerous to experience. So
Mm,
oftentimes that looks like sadness, that
mm,
looks like anger, that can look like fear.
mm-hmm.
And so those are usually the three big ones that are just underneath the surface that are feeling really scary to feel those things.
Yeah. So the smoke alarm is alerting that feeling this thing, expressing this thing, whether it's sadness or whether it's that something bad might happen if I do that.
hmm
Am I
Yes.
tracking with you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something
And I'm
about,
assuming that doesn't just like I wasn't born with that.
hmm, yeah,
Is that fair to say that I didn't come from the womb being afraid of those things or feeling anxious
absolutely.
about those things?
Yeah. Like this makes sense in your story. Not, you weren't born with
Hmm.
it, but something happened along the way and you learned that it wasn't okay to feel one of those
Hmm.
things, to feel those things, or something bad happened when you felt those things. And your body registered that as, dear goodness, don't feel that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about my own story, pieces, emotions that just weren't okay to feel or express, that, and, I can remember, I have memories of being upset or sad about a thing, and hearing the words, "I'll give you something to cry about."
Mm,
Like, ooh,
yeah.
it's like, okay, that's gotta shut that down. That's not
Yeah.
okay. And yeah, I remember the work that I had to do around the angst that would come up when I felt sadness, and having to learn that I was, when I followed and got curious about what was underneath the anxiety, I found the sadness. When I followed the story, I found the place where I learned that it wasn't okay to feel these things, express these things. And the healing that I experienced that changed my relationship with those feelings, man, has been so profound.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I can imagine, Josh, that as you've, you know, been able to experience that healing, that when you feel sad, it's not maybe causing as much anxiety.
Yeah, totally. I don't want to say I became a big crybaby, but I can feel sadness around things that are sad and not feel anxious about feeling or, expressing those things or having it come out of my eyes. You know, like it's just okay. It's just life.
Yeah, just
There's
okay.
sad things in life,
Yeah,
and you know, now I know what to do with those feelings, and I can reach for others, and I can grieve, and I can feel those things through to completion and find the peace on the other side and the wisdom and the strength on the other side of feeling those things through in a way that before, when I just got anxious and I came up and just shut everything down, you know, it was just avoid the things that trigger that feeling and
yes.
like change the subject, avoid the people, kind of avoid the thoughts. And that's tiring, man. It's tiring
So,
trying to avoid all the things that would trigger anxiety.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I can remember, back having the thoughts around, why, do I pray about these things and
Mm,
but I still feel anxious. What am I doing wrong here?
yeah,
It's like maybe this should fix it, but it doesn't seem to be fixing it, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, and that's why it's not working. And yeah, I'm just curious for the person who would say, I've prayed, I've read the Bible, I still feel anxious. What are some next steps that they can take that aren't undermining the value of prayer or the Bible or those pieces,
yeah,
but what for the person that's done that, done the prayer, done the reading the Bible, and they're still feeling anxious around these, what else can they add to that that'll be helpful?
absolutely. So I think a lot of what we've been talking about here would be applicable. I think offering some compassion towards that anxious part and then curiosity about
Mm.
it. So compassion, remembering that this anxiety isn't a sin, this anxiety isn't doesn't mean that something horrific is wrong with you or going on. Like it's just information. It's trying to tell you something important. So compassion and then curiosity. Okay, so if Caroline and Josh, if there's some truth in what they're saying, then maybe there is an underlying emotion that is popping up that's feeling maybe scary to feel, or I haven't allowed myself to give space to it in the past. So just trying on the anger, the sadness,
Mm.
the fear. Are any of those like, whew, striking a chord within you? Uh,
Yeah.
being curious about those emotions. And then being able to, if you're able to name them and notice them in your body, allowing yourself to feel them and bringing them before the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to be alone with those things.
Yes.
That's that invitation of the Lord, you know, bring them to me. because I care about these
Yes.
things. I care about you.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
As true as it is that he cares about me, I have found that because he cares about me, that he has given me people in my life too,
mm,
that I can
yeah.
hold these things with. And there's something just powerful about allowing somebody to be in it with you.
Yes. Not being alone in your
Yeah.
emotions. Yes. Being able to share that with someone else in your life who feels safe and can help
Yeah.
hold that with you.
And I know some people, they just don't have that in their life. And I think, a lot of times people find that sometimes for the first time with a therapist, they end up in a counseling context, and it's really the first time in their story that they can remember being with somebody that wasn't overwhelmed by their emotions, or who actually knew how to be helpful and be
Yeah.
with them and make space and facilitate them being able to feel and make sense of what they're feeling and not be overwhelmed by what they're feeling. Like, help people watching this understand when someone meets with you and they're experiencing anxiety and they're looking for some help from you as a counselor with anxiety, what what does that look like? What can they expect to experience with you?
Yeah. So first and foremost, like no shame.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this anxiety is just part of being human.
Mm-hmm.
So coming at it from that framework with no shame, and that this is something that's trying to help us and give us important information, we're going to work on that compassion and that curiosity. And we'll equip you with some tools to help your body feel safe with me. And once you are feeling safer, we're going to try to explore some of those underlying emotions, be able to identify them and give them the space and attention and care that they need. So, yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate the step by step kind of nature of that. And there's something really helpful with knowing that somebody knows what to do with these things. So emotions feel like so much like a black box for a lot of us. I
Yeah.
remember they felt like that before I learned about and did my own therapy and had my therapist kind of hold space for me, help me find words for the things I was experiencing, help me stay regulated enough to feel what I was feeling through. Like, all of that was, uncharted territory for me, and
Yeah.
was, you know,
For me too. For a lot of people.
yeah, it's confusing. It was scary, and I didn't like the strong feelings. And my answer was just like shut things down and stuff them into a box, and hope that they never surfaced again.
Yep, that's one strategy.
It's one strategy. It got me a certain distance in life, but man, it was hard on me, and it was hard in my marriage, and it was hard in my friendships. And, it wasn't until after I began really finding healing in these things that I realized how much in life I was missing out on, and how much it was affecting the people I loved and cared about. That approach to navigating things. Like, there was a lot of life on the other side.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. There is a lot of life on the other side. I think that's like a really hopeful word for people, especially stuck in the cycle of anxiety and shame, that there is a way out and there
Mm.
is a hopeful way of living and being in this messy world.
Yes. It is a messy world. Man, I just appreciate you so much, Caroline. Like, I know, from my vantage point, I get to read the reviews of the clients that work with you and what an awesome experience they have, and how the process that you're describing as you're with people, helping them have a different kind of relationship with their emotions and anxiety. Like, it's just world changing for people. So I have a lot of gratitude for you and for the lives that you touch in this work and helping walk folks through it. So thanks so much for what you do. And thanks so much for taking the time to write this article and shoot this video with me to help others have maybe a little bit different perspective on their anxiety as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. It really is a privilege and a joy.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. It brings Cassie and I a lot of joy to be a part of your story and have these conversations with you just about life and faith and neuroscience. Like, it is such a joy to get to do this with you. It's more fun when we learn together. I got a small ask for you. Would you hit the subscribe button for this podcast? It really helps us, and it's a free way in which you can support what it is that we're doing and help others be able to connect with the same resources that you're enjoying. And if you find yourself in need of a little extra help, check out MyCounselor.Online. They're our sponsors. They make this podcast possible. The Christian counselors at MyCounselor.Online would be thrilled to come alongside you and serve you in your time of need. Hey, and Cassie and I want you to know that we're praying for you and that we're cheering you on as you mature into true happiness.